Welcome, everybody, to Progressive Democrats of America's Town Hall for August 10th, 2025. And crazy days in the world and very difficult days in the United States of America. And there's a lot of subjects we'll be talking about today. We'll be having our featured guest, Nancy Thompson, who is joining us from Texas to talk about the both the push by the Republicans to redistrict without there being a new census at mid-decade because Trump wants his 5 seats, and also to talk about the resistance to what's going on in Texas and how maybe all of us can participate in helping out. And we'll also be joined in a minute by Susie Shannon from the DNC Poverty Council. And Susie is going to, again, remind us. I think this is a very important thing for us to push. PDA obviously has always existed in relationship to the Democratic Party, and a very, very important component of what we do is to, encourage our activists across the country to enter into the Democratic Party. And at the national level, there's really no better landing spot than to sort of keep track of what's going on at the DNC than to sign up as a member of the Poverty Council, which Susie is the founder and is still the first ever chair of the Poverty Council, having started up just about 5 years ago. So she'll be on to talk about that and get everybody signed up for that. So, okay, what to say about the state of the world and America? I mean, there's so many places where things are so difficult across the world and in the country right now. Notably, by the way, in 5 days, as things stand right now, it looks like Vladimir Putin will be meeting with Donald Trump at what was supposed to be set up as an effort to bring the president of Ukraine and Vladimir Putin together with Trump to try to push for peace in the Ukraine. But now it looks like Putin and Trump will be meeting without Zelensky, and I think it's a very notable moment in terms of where that's going to land the United States and our relationship to Putin and all that Putin stands for in terms of sort of oligarchic rule and authoritarian rule as a sort of a symbol of this this sort of political tendency that's just become so prominent in so many countries around the world, over the last 2 decades. And of course, Donald Trump has long been thought of as having idealized Putin and being envious of the manner in which he rules Russia. And certainly the ways in which Trump has led this country have moved things more in that direction in his second term than he ever did in his first term, as we all know. And yet he supposedly comes into this meeting frustrated with his inability to end the war within 24 hours, as he promised on the campaign trail. But again, I think the dynamics of that is something, the dynamics of how that unfolds are going to be interesting later in this week. And that's just bringing that up at the top because it's sort of a component that we haven't focused on recently in town halls. Of course, Netanyahu has outlined what fits with, I think, what most people assume is, of course, the longer range goal of the Netanyahu administration and the right wing of Israeli politics that Netanyahu's aligned with, which is to, obviously, remove all the Palestinians from Gaza, remove all the Palestinians from Israel, and of course, to have a direct occupation of Gaza is something now that he's promoting. It is being met with massive demonstrations in opposition by the Israeli citizenry. But the ongoing starvation of the people of Gaza and the atrocities there. And of course, this would just add to the effective genocide that's already transpiring there to have all the northern part of Gaza be occupied. And, again, Trump seems, even substantially less unwilling to counter Netanyahu than the previous administration was. And then domestically, Trump's popularity may be down, and I think there are a number of things that are contributing to that. And maybe it would be a worthy debate. Has his long time ties with Jeffrey Epstein as a friend, and the way that controversy has been quote unquote mismanaged by the Trump administration. Is that the primary contributing factor to a precipitous decline in his polls, or is it the other thing people point to, of course, is the bad reports on the economy with the expectation that even these reports are lags and actually things are already worse than they are. Certainly, inflation is poised to go back up, to be further exacerbated by the tariffs that are being imposed now to countries across the world. And that, of course, produces a lot of dissatisfaction, not only among the half of the population, at least, that is already, finds the whole Trump project disgusting and revolting and anti-democratic, but now it's cutting into his support in his base. And then also, I think it's worth saying that, at least some of his base has found the paramilitary actions of ICE in major cities in the United States to be repugnant. They, of course, are the setting up of domestic torture centers and just absolutely inhumane dehumanization of people inside the domestic United States, and to be treated that way. And this is only the beginning of ICE, and the whole thing is being led by, is understood to be being led by and overseen by Stephen Miller, who everybody anticipates is, the levels of sadism that he seems to want to inflict on communities. It's only just beginning. So, and on top of all of this, we have the Republican Party in no way, shape, or form willing to stand up um, against Trump, even as his poll numbers decline and substantial number of people who voted for him are finding almost all of these things that I just checklisted, or at least one or two of them significantly repugnant enough that they're publicly breaking with their support for him. The party remains in total lockstep. And, if you're going to outline the agenda of what this party is about, it is to consolidate single party control in the society for the Republican Party, and to absolutely break with the checks and balances of the U.S. Constitution. And of course, one of the front and center instances of this is the effort at mid-decade redistricting uh, being pursued in Texas after the great leader demanded that 5 more seats be won for him in that state. And so again, we'll be joined by a guest to talk about that in a little bit. And right now, what we'll do is go to Mike Fox, and Mike Fox every week provides us with our PDA to-dos for the week. And just to remind people, this is Progressive Democrats of America. Every week we have a Sunday town hall, a national town hall. And come on back next week. We're going to have one of the candidates for governor in California, Betty Yee, is going to be one of our featured guests. And let everybody know about it on Sunday. I think it's unlike anything that transpires. These are opportunities for you to also raise your hand and have a voice in the national town hall. And we'll be asking for questions later on in this hour, and then extending into a general discussion in the second hour. And just one note finally, when we get to our featured guest, it is the one point in these town halls. So when Nancy is speaking with us, we turn off the chat. The chat can be very distracting, and we want to respect our featured guests who take time out to join us to talk about very important issues each week. And during that period, we will turn the chat off. And by the way, we're also going to hear from PDA Chief of Staff Mike Olis, who drove from Indiana to West Virginia yesterday to see Bernie Sanders live. Again, it's been beautiful. The press response to these events he held in West Virginia have been spectacular. And once again, it shows that, our perspective on American society, on the economy, is embraced. I think we have majority opinions, majoritarian politics that we express here, and I think that's evident with the crowds that turn out for Bernie Sanders like no other politician in the country. And I don't know if people saw it. Not only is Bernie Sanders once again the most popular politician in the country, if you didn't see the Gallup poll, he is the second most popular American right now, only surpassed by the Pope, who one can argue, of course, is still in his honeymoon phase as Pope, the first ever American Pope. Maybe not surprising that he actually did slightly jump ahead of Bernie Sanders in the poll. But again, the guy that PDA drafted to run for president of the United States is the second most popular American in the whole country, and I'm not surprised by that. And I don't think anybody on this call is. So with that, Mike Fox, what are our PDA to-dos for this week?
Thank you, Alan. Can you hear me?
I can.
Fantastic. And I loves me some Bernie. I'm jealous as hell that Mike Olis was in the space. Good on you, brother, for driving 5 hours one way, organizing while he was there, jumping back in the car, and hitting 5 hours back home to kiss the kids. Classic PDA, brother. In there sweating, rubber hitting the road. That's what I'm talking about. All right, gang. So, with that in mind, in solidarity with Mike Olis, who was obviously in the game in a big way yesterday, our to-dos. To-do number one is always on this call. And for the new folks, welcome. Our number one to-do is always revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it here. We know the news is just, it's certainly the type of input that can depress one. There is no question. This call should literally be good healthcare, candidly. And I just want to thank everybody on the call. You make me healthier just by being here. So please just take a second and recognize you're with friends here. That's how we treat each other in the chat, and we build community here. I hope that you feel better at the end of this call than when you came in the door, okay? To do number two, we're going to throw a lot of good information at you here today. Not only just good stuff to have in your head, but even more importantly, things to act upon, okay? So my point is, take notes. All right. If you're real good at saving the chat, wonderful. But I would submit it's even more salient for you if you're jotting down notes, either like the Luddite that I am on my clipboard with a pen, or open up a notepad and take notes from this call. So you're definitely going to be acting upon things. Okay. Now, from a to-do from a time and treasure standpoint, okay? From a time standpoint, we got really two projects that we're hyper focused on over the upcoming week. Got a big long list of them. Lots of things folks can do, and I'll be tossing the to-do list into the chat here as soon as I stop yapping. But the two primary ones are number one, next Saturday, the big events, Stop Trump's Takeover. Okay. Mike Olis is going to be sharing a special PDA link on that. And if you'd be so kind, hit that. Make sure you sign up via our link, because we are always in a totally respectful and loving competition with our coalition members. Bottom line, we want crowing rights that, yes, indeed, our people were in the game. Okay. So, number one, next Saturday. Those events across the country, there's probably something near you. If you don't see something near you, start one yourself and hit us up at info@pdamerica.org if you're going to anchor one on your own, and we'll give you a hand with that, okay? All right, so that's number one to do. Number two to do is all week long, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. And phone bankers, when we got our chat open, if you're a phone banker, identify yourself as such, and just give a brief statement on why you do what you do, a nice invitation to other folks to join you, that kind of thing. Help us recruit. Our goal is 20 new phone bankers from this call. Okay. So, and everybody can sign up for just an hour. That's all we're looking for, 1 hour, at pdamerica.org/volunteer. If you can't remember that, or if you don't see it when I put it in the chat, just remember pdamerica.org. You hit the volunteer tab there, bang, you're signed up. Literally, if you want to be making calls tomorrow, as soon as we wrap this call, I'm going to be cutting phone lists for tomorrow. So let's jump on that with both feet, okay? And that takes care of time. Then we have the other T, which is treasure. And that is, first and foremost at PDA, we're about action, right? And we want you in the game in any way you care to. This isn't a big hard push for big dollars. But here's my point, that we do have to keep the lights on. And the way we're going to do that is through solidarity. If you can make a large donation, wonderful, we love you, but that's not the primary goal here. The primary goal is everybody in. Everybody in. And you'll hear the term on this call a lot, double dippers, people who actually make calls and toss a couple of bucks in. I don't care if it's $1, $5, $10, $20, $100, whatever you can do, please do it today, so that we can keep this ship turning in the right direction, okay? And I'll be back at the top of the hour to do an overview of where we're at on our goals. Let's crush them today in solidarity with Mike Olis and his 5-hour one-way trip yesterday. And see you at the top of the hour. Back to you, Alan.
Hey, thank you so much, Mike Fox. And what we'll do is I'm going to bring forward Susie Shannon right now, and she's going to remind folks how to join the Poverty Council. And as I said at the just a few minutes ago. Again, it's very important for PDAers. And by the way, this is a very interesting way the sort of subject of having Susie here, and then to go to the question of the redistricting. Apparently, one of the ways in recent American history that the two-party system got reconfirmed and reconsolidated within the American electoral system was after Ross Perot's challenge in 1992. And it was at that point that the flexibility around redistricting and the tacit approval of gerrymandering was sort of accepted by both parties and not, in a sense, aggressively blocked. And before 1992, you didn't apparently see a lot of gerrymandering, again, in the kind of whatever that would be post-war 45-year period where there was a little bit more of a bipartisan consensus on about how guardrails and political competition would operate between the two parties. So, if people are wondering why, maybe when you were younger, you didn't hear about this much gerrymandering, and then you did afterwards, it was apparently, it really the light switch got turned back on in terms of gerrymandering in this country after the challenge of a third party. And it's interesting too, because of course, in having Susie on, PDA is connected to the Democratic Party. It was founded much in the way that DSA was founded originally by Michael Harrington as an organization that would move into the Democratic Party. And by the time PDA was founded in 2004, which is later than DSA was founded, the party was seen as being not reflective of the interests of the working class, of the general population, even in terms of foreign policy, way to the right of where the American public was. And so PDA was founded, but with an understanding, and this was after Ralph Nader in 2000, so it was 2004 that it was founded, that, there are two parties who are sort of locked into the system. And even with Bernie, I saw an interview he did with CNN. Bernie has in himself an inside-outside relationship to the Democratic Party, but a real acknowledgement. The reality of the world is we are in this two-party system, and we have an opportunity with where the American public is through PDA to have them join things like the DNC Poverty Council and to turn the Democratic Party back to where it is reflective of the interests of the American people. And as I said earlier, in terms of engaging directly with the DNC, there's no better point of entry than signing up and becoming a member of the DNC Poverty Council. And for that, we have back the great Susie Shannon. Welcome, Susie.
Thank you, Alan. And I want to thank PDA so much for giving me this time again to talk about the Poverty Council. So I am the chair and founder of the Poverty Council. It was very hard to get this council founded. Alan Minsky was a big part of that, actually, because he wrote an article in The Nation about all the barriers that we were facing, even starting this council. And we've gotten so much support, from the progressive community and from stakeholders and people who are low income. We've actually had somebody come from a homeless encampment to talk about what life was like for them. One of our Poverty Council meetings, we always have people who are formerly homeless. I'm formerly homeless as well. So the chair is always somebody who is formerly homeless and speaking at the council. The big thing is right now, we have our meeting coming up on August 25th in Minneapolis at the Hilton. So if you're from Minneapolis or near there and could get there, we'd love to have you come to our in-person meeting. It's Monday at noon at the Minneapolis Hilton. But we also are signing up membership. And we have until August 15th. We have almost 500 members, but everybody has to kind of re-up. It's free, which is great. It doesn't cost any money. All you need to do is just sign up on the form that I put in the chat, which I'll put there again. And again, this is, the Poverty Council was formed to give a voice to low-income communities, just make sure that we're working on those issues. Right now, the administration and Congress are passing policies, which is really a checkmate on people who are in poverty. It's very hard to get healthcare if you don't have Medicaid. It's very hard to get food if your food stamps are cut. And there are a lot of housing issues, obviously, as well. Though these are all the issues that we work on, and we would love to have you come in as members. So thank you again for giving me this time, and I will put the link in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susie. And I'm just going to even lean into what Susie just said there. Look, everything Susie said is correct about the bill that was passed and the direct attack on Americans who don't have a lot of money or savings and are poor. And it's a horrible set of cuts. And the Democratic Party, in its space that it's in now, really, really needs a strong poverty council so that it turns into the next elections and are advocates for the people who are really hurting and need to have advocates within the political system. And we have to make sure that the Democratic Party has very sound anti-poverty policies and programs, and that they lift up people who are financially distressed in this society. And the Poverty Council is going to play a huge role in making sure the Democratic Party doesn't revert to turning its back on whatever it is now, 30, 40% of the population that's poverty or poverty adjacent. So thank you so much, Susie. And yes, if we get that in the chat, you look for the sign up link in the chat and then go ahead and sign up. And thank you so much, Susie Shannon. And now over to Mr. Mike Olis. And what we're going to do right now is Susie puts that in the chat. We're going to, for the next 15, 20 minutes, we're going to shut down the chat for everybody who's not a co-host, and that is a staff member or a featured guest. And then we'll turn the chat back on after Mike is done talking with Nancy. And maybe Mike will talk about your time seeing Bernie yesterday after Nancy's with us, or you take that however you like. But you're going to be introducing our featured guest and talking with her about what's going on in Texas in terms of redistricting and how we can support democracy and protect against the Republicans trying to steal the 2026 House midterms elections across the country. And of course, you are the great Mike Olis, PDA Chief of Staff, and take it away.
Hey, Alan, thank you so much. It was a whirlwind week here in Indiana and really across the country. On when was that? On Thursday morning, we had a surprise visit to the Indiana State House from one J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. And he came to Indiana because he wants our state, which is already heavily gerrymandered, to get rid of both of our Democratic seats in Congress. So right now, we're 9-2, and J.D. Vance and Donald Trump want us to go. I'm sorry, 7-2. They want us to go to 9-0, and that would include getting rid of I think one of the most underrated and most progressive members of Congress, and especially one of the strongest voices on Palestine, on Gaza, on healthcare, and replacing him with a MAGA congressperson. So, even in a state like Indiana, which feels like it would be safe from the gerrymander wars, we are deep in the middle of it. And so there's about 500 Hoosiers, people from Indiana, showed up at the State House on Thursday and had a massive rally. And then I actually went and tried to bang on the door that J.D. Vance was meeting behind. They had closed the door, locked us all out, and a couple Indiana State Police, and I appreciate that move. So, and I asked them, don't you guys take an oath to defend the Constitution? Don't you feel that our Constitution is under attack right now? And that conversation went downhill pretty quick. So if you Google today gerrymandering and about every state in the country right now, it pops up, right? If you're in a red state, they're going to come and try to take out any blue. And if you're in a blue state, and Bernie Sanders confirmed this morning, that the strategy is going to be to gerrymander like they do in the red states now. That we are in this gerrymander war where places like California, New York, Maryland, right, are going to be trying to make a blue state bluer, and the same thing happens in red states. So we're in a weird moment for American democracy right now. And on top of that, I went down to West Virginia yesterday. We talked about poverty. And went to one of the poorest places in America, Mingo County, West Virginia, which is in the middle of coal country. Really a historic site for the fight of the United Mine Workers and for good jobs, a clean environment, and safe working conditions. Have you seen the movie Matewan from John Sayles back in the day? The Matewan Massacre is in Mingo County. The Battle for Blair Mountain is there. Some of the largest uprisings in American history for labor rights happens in this county in West Virginia. So we saw Bernie there yesterday with about 300 or 400 people in a little old gym, and it was a real town hall feeling about how in a red state do we organize ourselves and get ready. And well, we'll make it more of a conversation, but it seems that in West Virginia, if you look at the Democratic Party in West Virginia right now, it's almost a PDA chapter. The executive director of the Democratic Party in West Virginia, Selena Vickers, who's been on our call many times, she's on the DNC in West Virginia. We have a great local chapter there, and Bernie, was there because of all these great people over the weekend. And so I feel like, even in the reddest of places, but a very working class state, we can get organized and hopefully, make a difference. Now, Brian Frankenberry, who's the PD or the executive director of the West Virginia Democratic Party and a former Working Families Party person, he's like, now we got to do the hard part. We actually got to win something, right? We got to actually show that politics can make a difference in people's lives. And so in Mingo County yesterday, it was awesome. Then we went up to Charleston. There was several thousand people in Charleston, West Virginia, waiting and watching Bernie, and just heard amazing story after amazing story from people who want real change in America and are willing to fight for it. So that's how I spent my Saturday in the Bernie verse and in the PDA world, and it was awesome. But he's going to be on the road, so I suggest if he's coming to your hometown or your home state, let's make sure that we're there, getting people signed up, getting organized and mobilized. There's a real opportunity for us to do that. We signed up, easily a couple hundred. If we had our ducks in a row, maybe we could have signed up a couple thousand yesterday. But it was awesome. And so when the Fight Oligarchy tour comes to your place, let's get organized and be there and ready to go. And then now really these next couple of months are going to be very intense, I think, for American democracy. In Indiana, they're talking about having a special session of our state house, maybe in late September, and that will for the first time in Indiana history, founded in 1816, I think, we'll have a mid-decade redistricting that happens, right? So every state is up for grabs right now. We're going to have to be on the front lines for democracy, and we're going to have to be on the front lines for this fight for America's future, because we're going to win the 2026 midterms. That's pretty clear. It's just a matter, are they going to try to rig it against us? And that's why I think so many of us are fighting so hard. And we'll take some questions here in a second, but I really want to transition back down to Texas. I know we were in Texas last month with Jim Hightower and crew and Clayton Tucker, and one of the great heroes in this fight for American democracy is as a part of the MAGA movement. Not the Making America Great Again movement, quote unquote, but the Mothers Against Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. And you saw Greg Abbott on TV all weekend, and he's out there spinning a lot of lies to make it sound like they're true. And so we thought it would be a great idea to get Nancy Thompson on, the founder of MAGA, Moms Against Greg Abbott. Nancy, are you with us today?
I am.
Great. Well, so thank you so much for joining us. And we meet every Sunday at this time, and we really try to huddle the progressive movement from across the country. And our mutual friend Christy Lara said, "Why don't you give Nancy Thompson a call and see what she has to say about what's going on in Texas?" So Nancy, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about this MAGA movement?
Oh, okay. So my name is Nancy Thompson. I live in Austin, Texas, and Austin, Texas is the capital of Texas, in case you don't know. I accidentally founded a women and mom movement here in Austin. It happened during COVID because what happened during COVID is that Greg Abbott called everybody to back to school, and he said he was going to get rid of wearing masks for kids. And I had a kid that was pretty sick, and I didn't want him to go back to school without a mask or without other students in the classroom that also didn't have masks. So I was just really upset with Greg Abbott. I thought he was endangering the children, and that was like where you cross a line. You can do a lot of things, but you don't endanger the children. So I just decided to stand up in front of the Texas Capitol, and I stood up, and I was holding a sign that one line in blue, one line in red, one line in blue, one line in red. And when I was trying to think of what to put on it, I was like, well, I'm so mad at Greg Abbott. I'm like, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. driving, I am like, moms demand action, but I'm a mother against Greg Abbott. So I wrote down mothers against Greg Abbott. And I went and I stood in front of the Capitol building for approximately 2.5 hours. And it's kind of anyway, it just happens to be a coincidence that the last time I was standing in front of the Capitol for 2.5 hours, our Texas legislators also had broken quorum because that was 4 years ago. Okay. So our state legislators had broken quorum. They were in DC and they were trying to pass a lot of voter restriction laws. And I was standing in the front of the Capitol with my Mothers Against Greg Abbott sign on. There were a bunch of Republicans on the floor. A couple of people had come back so they were able to have quorum. And I was in front of the Capitol building holding my sign. A couple people took my photo. I took my photo. I posted it in a couple of websites. It went crazy viral and like sort of like the rest is history. So I accidentally started this movement.
And Nancy, obviously, the special session goes through, I think, what, another 10 days. And
Yep.
what's the vibe right now? This breaking a quorum and the threat of FBI violence and the threat of Abbott to bring the full force of the Trump world upon these legislators.
I don't think any of us know what is about to happen. I mean, it really feels like we're watching, and I don't know, maybe I'm being too dramatic, but I don't really think I'm being too dramatic. It feels like we're watching democracy fall apart in real time because what is going to happen is if he brings on the FBI, that is definitely government overreach over state powers. And once we start seeing that kind of behavior where they're locking up and arresting politicians because quorum is actually a legal process that is a-okay and supported in our Texas Constitution. We are going to start seeing the breaking down of powers and the separation of the parties. And we are going to start seeing like a uni party and a uni country and a uni state where it's going to become drastically more fascist. We know that in recent months, we've done a great job of pushing back against the Trump regime in the courts. But in Texas, Trump is winning everywhere. And it isn't because Trump is popular here. I don't really necessarily think he's popular. He actually is less popular in Texas than Greg Abbott. And that's saying something because Greg Abbott's popularity is the lowest it's ever been in Texas right now. So to see them basically bending over backwards for Trump right now is incredibly surprising. Um, so we know that they're breaking a bunch of laws. We know that they don't care, and we have no idea what is about to happen. We do know that they plan on going after Beto O'Rourke, empowered by people. And a lot of people are like, well, so what does that mean? That means, I mean, they know that Beto O'Rourke, empowered by people, are helping to fund the Texas Democrats breaking quorum. And Greg Abbott and all of them are really mad about that. The hypocrisy is that they get paid millions and millions of dollars from, billionaires across the country like Jeff Yaz and Tim Dunn and Wilkes to go ahead and fund their special interests. But Beto O'Rourke can't fund anything for Democrats. Like the hypocrisy is just overwhelming. However, what they're doing is they're going to hold it up in courts. Right now in Texas, there is a court majority of all Republicans in the Supreme Court here in Texas. So they are going to probably back Ken Paxton and all of them. And what's going to happen is going to be a complete attack on Beto O'Rourke and his organizations, where they're going to get tied up in courts. They're going to dig into all of his files, all of his funding, all kinds of stuff, and really go after him. So those are the things that really have me concerned right now because I don't know what to expect, what is coming. It's the great unknown. And there's a lot of fear about what is the unknown. There's always fear of the unknown. And we have to remember that our legislators also don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to have their jobs when they come back? Are they going to be fired? Are they going to go straight to elections? Is Greg Abbott going to pass laws that only Republicans can win elections from now on? Like, we have no idea what he's going to do because he's that crazy. But all of this fear is real. So we have elected legislators, across the country. Most of them are in Chicago, but elected legislators who are scared, who have people knocking on their doors saying they're delivering pizzas, whose family members are getting harassed, who are getting pointed out, on social media and just bullied left and right. And it's just been really pretty scary for them. So I don't think it's been a calming situation. It's hard to be brave, and it's hard to be brave in fascism in real time.
And
So,
Nancy, what's it been like for you personally, as sort of a voice in this, taking on this, yeah, probably one of the toughest, roughest situations in America. What's it been like for you personally?
okay, so can I be real?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna be totally real with you guys. I just had a couple really rough days. I'm gonna be totally honest. I was contacted by some Texas Democratic legislators and their staff members, and I started getting contacted from them when there were rumors about a special session. They needed help, they needed support, they needed to put pressure on some legislators who they thought would not break quorum. So I would spend several hours every day making phone calls. I spent hours learning about the process of redistricting, the process of breaking quorum, having some meetings with some lawyers to find out, like, can they do this? Can they not do this? Can they do this? Can they not do this? I put together a social media toolkit on breaking quorum. I took Anat Shanker Osario's amazing messaging and I tailored it for Texas. I came up with a series of memes. I publicized our toolbook, our social media toolbook. I did all of this messaging work for people and the party, and I really tried to be a team player. And what's frustrating for me as a progressive, as an organizer, was one, is that a lot of times when our legislators do the fight, and we all know this, I think every single person out there has experienced this, probably sees it happening, is that sometimes you're on their side, you're the grassroots, you're on their side, you want to support them, but they don't always let you in. So then you don't know how to message, and you put out great messaging, but it's not their messaging. But you do put out great messaging, and there's a lot of like, it's not invented here syndrome. Okay, Nancy, we're not going to use your messaging because I didn't creatively come up with that myself. So I'm not going to use your messaging. So I think that that's pretty frustrating because I really was trying to be impactful and really supportive. And then that kind of fell by the wayside. But all the messaging that I did got a lot of tweets, got a lot of followers, got a lot of engagement. So I'm really proud of the work that we did. But a few days ago, like I said, they've been contacting me over time. So they would contact me and they said, make some calls. So I would make the calls. Then they contacted me and they said, hey, Nancy, we're having problems with the Mexican American Legislative Caucus. They are thinking, several of these members are thinking about not breaking quorum. We need you to call them out. And then they gave me a list of their names who were thinking about not breaking quorum. So I made a social media post and I said, these people are thinking about not breaking quorum. And then I put it out, and then I started getting phone calls of, your information is wrong. These people decided to break quorum. How dare you go after our brave and strong Democratic leaders, blah, 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 blah. But then come to find out that after some of these leaders saw that I was calling them out, and it was very clear that we were watching what they were doing, that they decided to go right ahead and break quorum along with the rest of the Democrats. And then when they had a press conference, they all stood behind the podium. And and so I got a lot of criticism for that, but sometimes it's like, okay, mission accomplished. Some of these people did leave. So like, this is good. That was what was intended to happen. That was what was intended to play out. So fast forward, it was very successful. It got four of them to change their mind and go ahead and agree to the breaking of the quorum. So people were
Hey,
really
Nancy,
happy.
how many can they lose before they establish quorum? Like,
Right now they're at like 55 and they have to have quorum at 51, so they can lose just three
so
between.
it's getting close and gonna be tighter and
It's gonna,
tighter.
Yeah, one of them just went back on Friday. Mary Gonzalez just went back. Yeah.
And then once, yeah, I wanted to open this up for questions and take people's questions here for you. But could you also then tell us about, okay, so what does it look like in Texas? It's intense, but we know in Florida and the Midwest and everywhere else, we are gonna, this is Texas is just the beginning, right? It's the biggest fight, but it's just the beginning. What are some advice you can give folks like who want to be like you in other parts of the country?
And, my advice is if you want to be like me, start taking care of your health first. That comes first. Absolutely. Take time for yourself. Get really good at spreadsheets, things like that. No, but in all seriousness, we have to have brave politics right now. And we do need, thousands and thousands of other people like me who are very brave and will put themselves out and themselves at risk. And I think that when we practice brave politics and we don't just say we're going to do something, we actually do it, and we have actionable items that we're going to achieve. I think that we can do amazing things. Like, also, I'm going to say, you know who you are, you know how you function best. Don't ever overcommit to something that isn't a right fit for you, that isn't going to allow you to function the way you want to function. There is so much work that needs to be done. You can find something to work on that fits what you would like to do and stick with that, because I'm much rather about thousands of us be successful in the space that we're comfortable with than thousands of us fail at trying.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And being an activist and an organizer, and especially in hostile conditions, it's a lot, right? And so let's take some questions. And I see that Alan Minsky, who's our executive director, has his hand raised and probably wants to comment here. So,
Um,
Alan, do you want to?
well, yeah, first of all, thank you and solidarity and just incredible respect. And I did actually want to ask a couple questions around Texas, if people don't know, I'm from Missouri, and it was a little bit painful for me as a Missourian to watch Texas, the results of the presidential election become, the split between the Democrats and the Republicans became worse in Missouri than it was in Texas a few cycles ago. And in the Biden-Trump race, it was actually 52-46. And so the 38 House seats in Texas. Right now, that split is 25-13. Now, Trump did do about 3 or 4 percentage points better in Texas in 2024 than he did in 2020. But as you can see, if it's 52-46, or let's say 55-45, 25-13 is already a pretty exaggerated gain for the Republicans through gerrymandering. Um, so what are your thoughts about, if they proceed to gerrymander? I suppose what the reason that they can do a lot better is because they can probably pack the Democratic districts even more aggressively than they did. But people have speculated that this could backfire on the Republicans, though I wouldn't trust that at all, and I think it should be blocked, and everyone should fight to block it. And the other thing I'm wondering about is I know that a big swing towards Trump in Texas in 2024 from 2020 was in the Latino communities in Texas. Has that, do you know if that has reversed? Because I live in California, I live in Los Angeles, and my understanding is in the Southwest, further southwest than Texas, in the country, the Latino support for Trump has fallen since the election precipitously, and in particular since the ICE raids. Has that phenomenon occurred in Texas as well, as if you know?
Okay, so I'm going to give you some insights from my point of view after traveling the RGV and what is going on in the Latino community. So,
Right.
what has happened is that the Republicans figured out how to get to the Latino community. They get to them by providing jobs for them. So, if you are Latino and you live along the RGV and you apply for a job in Border Patrol, you're going to get a job in Border Patrol or with the DPS, the state police, whatever, and you're going to have a starting salary between between $65,000 and $80,000 a year, and you didn't go to college. So these people who apply for these jobs, they just think like, well, this is amazing. I have a living, I can buy a house, I can do all this stuff, and I don't have to leave my community, and I will never have that opportunity again. So for people in the RGV and along border areas, I mean, these jobs are essential. I mean, most families have at least one, if not more, families that a family member that works for the Border Patrol, you know. And the other thing is that something that we don't think about is that is okay. So Greg Abbott has been taking a lot of money from other budgets and he's been putting it in the border. He's like, you know, he creates basically a movie set along the border, making it seem like everybody's crossing and there's all this terrible stuff happening. And it is all optics to say there's thousands of people crossing the border and these border towns are so dangerous. That is completely not true. Most of the border towns are safer than Austin, Texas. And so they're very, very safe. And he's just creating the optics in order to create the fear, and the more military that it looks like he's building up, the more fear that creates into the inside of Texas, up to North Texas, past Texas, into the rest of the country, where they think we're just being invaded by, you know, cartels and things like that. So I think he creates those optics, and optics are everything. But we, the taxpayers, are subsidizing Greg Abbott and his use of funding for all of this sort of military optics along these border cities. And if you're in the border city, you kind of like it because you have somebody who is filling up your hotels, who's filling up the restaurants, and your towns are booming, where usually they're very poor. These are towns that are used to being very, very poor, but now the restaurants are full, and now the hotels are full, and now their nephew who didn't even get a GED can get a job along the Border Patrol. So you have to look at the psychology of that, and they think, I mean, they think like, well, I just care about having a job that allows me to buy a house and feed my family. And that's really the simplicity of it. But we are also seeing that the Republican Party has been closing community centers up and down the Rio Grande Valley. I got pictures of a bunch of community centers this last week that say closed. So they are no longer investing in those communities. That's what that is telling me. But Latinos are very focused on, I'm going to be really fast. Latinos are very, very focused on kitchen table issues. So I think I was telling my husband on the way on coming back from the airport, I was like, we should put out billboards that say, Donald Trump took away Abuelita's Medicaid. Donald Trump took away you know, your special needs son's chip, things like that. Like how it's really impacting them is really the problem. Donald Trump just made your guacamole and chips a lot more expensive. I mean, we really have to do that. And then we also have to go out into, I know Christy Laura has her hand up. We were talking about this at Netroots. We have to go out into our community in genuine, real ways, like in ways that they would understand. So we have candidates, and I keep on saying this to a lot of people. When we have candidates and they're running for office, how do you reach the Latinos? You have to go where they are. I mean, Latinos are in the parks on the weekend. They like spending time with family. They're in their neighborhoods. You should get, you know, a paleta truck to do ice cream paletas. Go out there and meet everyone. Go and cut up some watermelon and go meet people in the park. We have to go out in authentic, genuine ways into the Latino community. And you don't have to speak perfect Spanish. You just have to try. That's all they want.
Thank you, thank you, and yeah, and for people out there who don't know, in Texas, and until very recently, the very southern part of the state was largely had Democratic elected officials, and this is one of the areas in the country where there was a big swing to Trump in the last election. So yeah, thank you. Should we go to Christy next? Christy, if you can.
Yeah, and let's go to Christy, and then yeah, if you can help us work the hands, we have eight or nine people ready to go. So
Sure thing. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I'm able to unmute, but not able to start my video.
Yeah, sorry about that. We do that because we've been Zoom bombed, so we should have arranged that in advance. But welcome back, Christy. Of course, you were with us
Okay.
2 weeks ago. So
So
yeah,
apologies, everyone, but I just want to say, I'm here in New Orleans. Nancy and I attended the Netroots conference, and I want to thank, PDA for, highlighting what's happening in Texas. And the only thing I want to leave everyone with today is that we say it all the time, but what happens in Texas affects the nation, and for that matter, the world. And people always ask me, why do I fight so hard in Texas? Why do I continue this quite literal uphill battle? And it's because I know that our nation, our country, our people, our children are literally at risk. And those seats that we hold in Congress, that Texas holds in Congress, are so pivotal to us being able to have some sort of power of majority. Those 36 congressional seats, we're talking about 5 right now being redlined. Quite frankly, we need to be clear that this is just another rendition of old Jim Crow. They are redlining communities, cutting out voters that they don't want, keeping voters they do. And if anyone on the call looks at a Texas congressional map, you will see it is a giant mess. And that is so that they can hold. People think it's about Texas, but it's about national and even world power. So what I will say to all the people on the line, all of those, people we've been fighting for so long, I'll say this: what happens in Texas affects the entire nation. So right now we are talking about these 5 districts, but call our legislative representatives in Texas and say, what you're doing in Texas affects the nation. Remind them that the work that we do here matters, that the quorum break matters to your family and your children. It matters whether we have Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, all of those rights we've fought for as a country. So don't feel like you can't make your voice heard here, because it will affect you. They are coming directly for you through the line of Texas. Um, and, we are a powerful group, but we are only as powerful as we mobilize. So I hope that we do need more people to stand up across the nation, put that pressure on. If you're able to, if you're in a blue state that's solidly blue and you have progressive candidates, support the work that we're doing in Texas, support groups like Nancy's. Go to her website, mothersagainstgregabbott.com. She has a litany of information there that you can tap into. Go to the Texas Progressive Caucus. We are fighting tooth and nail, not just for ourselves, but for each other. And we'll continue that work, not me, us. So thank you, Alan. Soapbox over.
Hey, Christy, I know you're on Netroots, but um, this weekend, and so part of this national conversation. So let's take some questions, and if Christy and Nancy and Alan can chime in, at the top of the hour. I'm gonna have to get my car and head to our local Indianapolis meeting of PDA tonight, where we're gonna be organizing an event on Saturday to go up into one of our suburban counties and put pressure on our politicians not to redistrict. So it's we're small compared to Texas, but they're coming for our 2 seats here. So if in Florida, they're probably going to come for another 5 seats, right? So wherever we're at, this is your fight also. So if Alan, could you help or Alan or Mike or somebody, could you help get some people asking some questions?
Alan, you're muted.
sorry about that. Erica, please unmute. There you go.
Hi, you can't see it, but I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, so I want to say that as far as I'm concerned, Greg Abbott was never invited to cookout. If we ever had any, he is not invited. And also, as a longtime Power to the People donor, it's kind of a trip. Powered by People, sorry. As a longtime Powered by People donor, it's a real trip being a member of a cabal for a change. So I can stop feeling bad that George Soros never came up with all the money he must owe me right now. And I wanted to say that I donated to Mothers Against Greg Abbott just now. So because I can't be there as much as my money can, so I wanted to take that time and let you know that.
Thank you so much, Erica. Thank you for donating. And, you know, to both Powered by People and Mothers Against Greg Abbott, it really does matter and it adds up.
Thank you. Marciel, please unmute, and I'll take the liberty of saying great t-shirt, Nancy. We love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Got it at Netroots.
Marciel? Welcome, Marciel.
Thank you. We need a slogan to unite all of us. There are Republicans who are becoming Democrats and running for office. I think it's Greg Casar, I forget. And there's somebody else. There was a Republican holding a town hall and he got booed royally. So there's a lot of action, wonderful things happening around the country. We need a slogan, and I heard one on MSNBC, the people's dream, the people's dream. And I have a question for you, Nancy. Can you send your amazing plan for breaking quorum? I would love to either see it on your website or so that I can send it around to various groups about, you know, like senators and different people. I love that, the breaking quorum. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link right now in the chat. This was just to my social media toolkit, and it's pretty simple. I have social media toolkits as well. I didn't put this into social because I didn't want to write instructions. But anyway, you could see what I put together.
Heidi, please unmute. And while you're unmuting, I actually want to ask Nancy and Christy a question to clarify. The legislators who have gone to Illinois or elsewhere out of the state, they're breaking no law, right? There's no law being broken. So what, pray tell, is the excuse for the FBI or anybody arresting them? What are the
I mean, as far as I know, that they can't legally do anything. They have no jurisdiction in some of these states. There is nothing that they can do legally. So, you know, Donald, that's why they were trying to get the FBI involved and stuff, but they have broken no laws.
Right.
They're going to try to, like this, the House and the Senate are probably going to try to pass new laws while they're gone to make it seem like the things that they're doing are criminal. It's going to result again in like silly stuff, like them losing their parking space at the Capitol, them like losing some vice chair seats at the Capitol. And as far as I'm concerned, those are really like, who cares, right? That's nothing compared to losing democracy. So it's nothing compared to being the fighter out there on the front lines for what we need to do right now at this moment.
Thank you. Heidi, you're up.
Great. Nancy and Christy and Alan, thank you so much for all of your leadership. I want to ask you about the creative community out of Austin, especially in Lubbock, and find out from you whether you've gotten people like Bucket Allen and the Allen family, as well as like the Flatlanders and all those guys behind you, to see about getting support. I was at school with Bucket Allen myself back in 1986. So I've known of these folks since then, and I'm wondering what I can do to help to get your information and your contact info to those people.
I'm
And
gonna
Joe,
put my email. I'll put my email in the chat, and I do not know the Allens.
Okay.
Thank you. And Mimi, please unmute.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Nancy, Alan, and the Mikes for organizing. That's amazing that you drove to Bernie. We did that to go to Folsom, Bernie's Folsom event. So I'd really encourage everyone to get to those inspiring events. And thank you, Nancy, for the hard work that you're doing and emphasizing that self-care comes before community care. And I wanted to ask you what you would recommend to tell folks, because a lot of people are getting burnt out, including myself. I'm a part of Indivisible California, and there's just so much going on. And thanks again for your bravery and sharing your tactics and full support and love from California. And I'm so glad that, this, when they go low, we go high. I mean, I was there at Philly DNC in 2016, and that just simply does not work when we're being bullied as we are and you are in Texas. So
Yeah,
keep the faith, lady. That was amazing. You're an inspiration to me and many, many here, and all love and support and respect to you. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you. You're so sweet. So I have a different philosophy. I don't believe in when they go low, you go high, because that's not the war we're in. It hasn't been the war that we have been in Texas for a very long time. So I believe in when they go low, we go for the jugular. That's my philosophy. I'm just gonna go straight for the jugular because that's where I am. I have no more shits to give, okay? So I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm done. Okay, so let's talk about things that you do for self-care. I mean, I'm gonna tell you all some real, I'm gonna give you guys some straight up tools. Okay, first of all, I started drinking these protein drinks with lots and lots of protein in them called like core. There's something core, and they have like 20 some grams of protein or 42 grams of protein, and they're mind-blowingly amazing. And I get up in the morning and I try to drink and have protein. And then after I have protein, I drink water. And I've been drinking water out of Crickle because I'm trying to break my soda habit and my caffeine habit. And there's like these little flavor cartridges. So I make sure I drink about at least 4 to 6 of these a day. So there's that. I think when you need to clear your mind, you need to take a walk. I think that you need to make a point to make sleep a point. It needs to be part of what you do, because when we sleep better, we just do better. Okay. So I think sleep is really important. And I've been very, very vocal that I'm a big fan of Lexapro, because what Lexapro has done for me, and I'm just going to be totally honest, what Lexapro has done for me is that I was constantly in a state of fight or flight where it would take very little for somebody to get me riled up. And now people get me riled up and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I just shake it off my shoulder. It's amazing how little I give a shit now that I'm on Lexapro. It's been mind-blowingly like amazing. I'm not in that constant state of fight or flight. I make myself, my sleep, my vitamins, my water, my protein a priority. And then also I have a motto. My motto is eventually everything gets done. So meaning that you don't have to do everything right away. It's all going to get done eventually. You know what I mean? Is it more important than you spending an hour watching The Gilded Age on Sunday night? No. If that's what you love to do, go do something every single day that you love to do. That's more important, because that downtime is super, like, it's very important to your mental health. So anyway, I hope that gives you something to like hang on to.
No, thank you. Sage advice indeed. And let's go to Daniel, and then maybe to Christy for her thoughts, just a cumulative, and then we'll continue on. So, and of course, Nancy, chime in as well for questions for you. Daniel, please unmute. Daniel Carvajal. Daniel, can you unmute? We'll go to Edie. Well, Daniel hopefully can unmute too. Edie, please unmute. If Daniel, you got it, Edie. And Daniel,
Hi.
you got some.
I liked all the information, but I just wanted to know, was it the jobs that they promised the people that got more Latinos to vote for Trump? And in the meanwhile, he's deporting a lot of people who are Latino.
It definitely does have a lot to do with jobs, for sure. There's a few things that are attractive about the jobs. One of them is that a lot of people like the bosses, there's a lot of fear. So some of these bosses in the workplace were like, you better vote for Trump or else you won't have a job. So, and there's a lot of people who are not intelligent enough to know that their vote is not public. So that's the second thing. So they think that their vote is public and they think that if they vote for a Democrat that they will lose their job. So it's definitely a combination of stuff and job security. Yeah.
Is that legal?
No, it's not, but they don't care. I mean, this is Texas. They don't care. Like the fear, if fear is part of the process of fascism. And that's just, and we've been living, honestly, if looking back now and reading, I have a thing called the Anti-Fascist Book Club, and I've been reading all, like, I've read so many books on anti-fascism. So like how to, against fascism. And one day I sat there and I was like, okay, Texas has everything. We were the first state to become fully fascist, you know? So yeah, fear here is a side dish.
Let's go to
Yeah.
Daniel, and then
Yeah.
thank you. Oh, thank you. Over to Daniel, and then to Christy for her thoughts. Daniel.
With cerebral palsy from Miami, Florida.
Daniel, we can hear your media. Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hold on. Hello, my name is Daniel Carvajal, and I am physically disabled with cerebral palsy from Miami, Florida. I just want to know, what can we do to stop gerrymandering in Florida?
Jim Langford, if you want to chime in on that, and then, but again, Christy, any thoughts on what everybody's been talking about, and then Nancy as well?
We're working on it in Florida, Alan, to be honest with you, but we don't have the members of our state legislature that Texas has. So we have been gerrymandered already to the point where none of our Democratic legislators have to show up, and they can continue doing business just like they weren't there. So we just don't have the numbers to make that difference, but we are going to, be putting up some resistance. In fact, we were discussing that this morning. Not sure exactly what we're going to do, but it looks like the House Speaker has called for a special session, I think in October. So it'll be coming pretty quickly.
And then maybe Christy, just as a prompt for you too. I did mention earlier, Texas did gerrymander aggressively. In fact, one of the reasons Greg Casar has the seat he has is because I think they looked at the arithmetic and geometry of their gerrymandering, which is already crazy, and they just needed to pack an Austin seat in to bring as many Democrats into one seat, and that's actually the seat that Casar has, which was a new seat, which of course is reflective of the growth of Metro Austin over the past 10 years. So yeah, Christy, your thoughts on everything.
So to give people an example of the very concerning level of gerrymandering in Texas and across the South, let's be clear, this is, Florida, I consider our sister state because we deal with similar situations. We have a congressional candidate overwhelmingly ran and won in Dallas, Julie Johnson. It was a seat formerly held by Colin Allred. And I believe it's congressional district 32, if I remember, 31 or 32. But the point is, overwhelmingly Democratic, solidly within the Dallas urban area, and they intend to draw to lower my amount of anger, but they intend to split that district up into 7 different congressional seats. That is the level of evil that we are working within. And it is unfortunate to say that Julie is not the only one that has happened to. LBJ's district, which was solidly in Austin, was split up. I believe it has like 6 or 8 different districts. That district runs approximately 6 hours, CD10, all the way across from Austin to Houston. They make no sense. They're just, like you said, Alan, doing the math, right? Mm-hmm. And we often take what they do and say, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And to piggyback on what Jim said about what do we do and the question, what do we do about the gerrymandering? The main thing we need to do, and another caller asked about fatigue, organizing fatigue. The first thing that you guys need to know, being here at Netroots, the conference, is important because it energizes you. It helps your batteries, gives your batteries a boost, right? So one of the things we learned, and the greatest thing I will take away from Netroots this year, is when we left the conference, there was a band, the New Orleans style band.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so much joy as we marched down the street to end the conference. And what that said to me in my mind, and Nancy and I talked about this, was as activists, as organizers, I cried quite a bit here at convention because we were so stressed out, worrying they were going to, make a quorum. But we need to remember that the work that we do requires joy. And how do we bring joy to activism? And one of the things Nancy mentioned was, do we get a paleta cart, which is an ice cream cart, while we do voter registration drive? Do we have a band in the street where we're celebrating not just democracy, but communities? We have to figure out how we bring joy to our movement. And the other thing I will say is, while we're bringing joy, everyone, please remember that these people, including our side, are often winning with 10% of the vote. Less than 50 in off years, in municipals, in townships across the nation, 7%, 10%, 12%. That means that when I pull a list out of van for voters in a municipal election or a local election, county commissioner election, that 7 out of 10 voters often are not voting. So if we can reach those presidential voters, those diehards, those people that we know 1,000% support congressional representatives that are Democratic, or even presidential candidates that are Democratic. If you go to them and you tell them, we have a local election, we know you're a Democrat, can we count on you to vote in your local city council, your local school board, in your county commissioner, and God forbid in your midterms, Alan? Midterms are next year.
Mm-hmm.
Can we count on you? We need you. Go to their door. I am telling you, they will turn out. They have never let me down. When you run an active field, and there's, your field person also inspires me. When you run active field, you will be successful. I promise you. Just don't show up those 3 weeks before the election. Make that connection. Let them know we care. We care if their kids eat. We care if their schools are fully funded. We care if they're removed from their district, their voting district. We care about their voice, their families. And I'll get off my soapbox again now.
When is the special election for the Houston district? Don't forget, Abbott held back and stalled a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives. It's not still vacant.
Yeah,
And
November.
November?
Yeah. But what's tricky is that there's 30 people running for one seat in November. So it's going to go into a runoff. So then there'll be a runoff a couple weeks later. And then comes the primaries that happens in March, but early voting starts in February. And that's a totally different race. So we're talking about that district is going to vote like 4 or 5 different times before the middle of next year.
And of course we hope right now that is the same district and not an altered district.
So, yeah, we're hoping it's the same district. Chances are going to be very slim if it will stay the same district.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody on the call too. Texas has your Democratic House of Representatives delegation has played an outsized role. Not only is Greg Casar now the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, but 2 of the I think champions for progressives in the country are reps from Texas right now in Jasmine Crockett and Al Green. So yeah. Okay, let's we should wrap in say 5 more minutes. We have so many people on stack, And Mike Fox is supposed to rejoin us at the top of the second hour to go through our PDA to-dos. We've run over. This has been fantastic. But let's go right now to the phone number, the 773 phone number, and unmute, please. And then let's try to get maybe one more person in after that. And then
Okay.
we'll have final thoughts from Nancy and Christy.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. Yeah, this whole move on part of the Republicans is very disturbing. Oh, one of the things I want to say too. If you look at the history of Nazi Germany, one of the reasons why Adolf Hitler became popular is because he put his people back to work in the middle of the Depression. So this is the same playbook. You make people economically dependent on you, and then you can get them to do whatever you want. Was asking about the redistricting. Is there any way you can challenge it in court? I know the Supreme Court is stacked against us right now, but isn't this unconstitutional what they're doing?
It is. So right now there is currently a court case on the redistricting that we currently have now. It's in El Paso, and they're supposed to be having a hearing soon. And Greg Abbott has been using that court case against this new redistricting. So if they redistrict again, it's going to throw that court case out, and that court case will not be heard. And then there'll be a new court case that will be caught up in the court system for another 4 or 5 years until we have the next census. It's a mess.
I was wondering if to piggyback on that question, what about it getting so close to the primary date in March? Is there any precedent that's been established? I know that unfortunately New York State took forever to get their district set, and it came very close to the primaries, and a bunch of candidates who didn't know where they were running, and that didn't block the redistricting. And I think people tried to because it got so close to the primary date. Do you have any sense of precedent on that? Like if it crosses a certain time, it might be you might be able to time out the effort to do it because it'll be too close to the primaries.
I think that the last day to register to run for office is like December the 8th. So I imagine that the deadline will be close to that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bob, please unmute Robert Babcock. Please unmute Robert. There you go.
Yeah, would let me at first. I'm really, I get all the talk about the gerrymandering problem, but I'm not hearing much of anything, and I don't know what PDA is doing about the problem of voter disenfranchisement, voter suppression. I've been following Greg Palast for a number of years. I consider him to be a personal friend. I've been following the New York University's Brennan Center for Justice, and it's well documented that this is why we have had Trump twice in the White House. It was a bloodless coup. Okay, if you take a look at the number of voters, the number of votes cast for each of the candidates, the number of voters suppressed, and the distribution between Democrats, Republicans, and no party preference, you'll see that had those voters been able to vote, we'd have Kamala instead of Trump. We have to do this across the country. It's urgent. We're going to be screwed this next election if they continue to purge the voters.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bob. And it's a subject we have brought up, and there is a PDA affiliated project that focuses on this, as well as the redistricting and everything about the corrosion of our democracy. And it's something that's kicking into gear in advance of the end of this year, in advance of the midterms. But your final thoughts. Let's go to Christy first, and then over to Nancy. And thank you again for joining us, Christy. It's so great to network with you, and just looking forward to getting some great victories and working together and organizing and growing the progressive Democrats in Texas.
Absolutely. I think the number one thing that I want everyone in the call to leave with is not only do we have someone powerful like Nancy who's made her voice, that literally a change agent for the size of Texas is. So I want to encourage everyone that we are powerful. Our voices are powerful, and use that wisely. But I also want everyone to know that as we move through the cycle in through 2026, remember to pace yourself, as Nancy alluded to, but also know we are absolutely on the right side and we have the numbers. 1000% we have the numbers every day, all day. It's if we can motivate our communities to turn out and go vote and make sure that we're running campaigns that are creating those relationships with people and making sure that we're using the best information. Also, we're using the best campaign techniques that we can use. And know that the progressive message is the winning message all day, every day. Even for moderates, they can't disagree with us. They might say, well, I don't like you guys, or, you guys are too aggressive or too left, but when you get with them on the issues, they're like, yeah, I agree with all that. But so we can be the change, we can mobilize, we can make the difference that needs to be made. And just the final reminder that let's all go to sleep tonight and remember how to find joy in the work that we do. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't do the hard work. It means that you will still find me block walking, and Nancy will be block walking in 110-degree heat. That will happen, and I will not be happy while I'm doing it. But we have to figure out a way to bring the joy to the moment. So let's all work our asses off as much as we can. Let's push as hard as we can, and do it in a joyful way so that we can bring those voters out. People respond to joy, Alan. You guys remember Barack Obama's campaign was so full of joy, hope, and change, and ending the war. Healthcare, not warfare, is what brought me to PDA back in those days. So let's find that joy and let's bring it back to the people and make sure we're still willing to do the work.
No, I love it, and I love these calls where I get to meet people who are so inspiring to connect with you again. I think I've been on a number of calls with you previously, but to have you on the show just twice in a few weeks has been marvelous. And then to meet Nancy today over the Zoom was incredible. I think Nancy, you're incredibly inspiring activist and organizer as you are as well, Christy. And yes, I wish I could hear a New Jersey, New Jersey, not a New Jersey jazz band, a New Orleans jazz band right now. take us out. But let's go over to Nancy. Thank you so much, Christy. And again, onwards. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Christy and Alan, for the kind words. I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me here today. I think I want to leave you guys with something to think about. We have to go out into the world in authentic ways. And one of the best ways to do that, I think, is by allowing people to ask us questions. So we're going to launch a campaign that is going to turn all of us individuals into walking billboards. And so we're launching a campaign called Ask Me Who I'm Voting For, where we are going to open it up for people to ask us who we're voting for and to have these conversations in public. So whoever is comfortable having those conversations in public can have them with strangers or in public. You don't have to follow the campaign directly, but I think it's really important that we start really activating people to have genuine conversations and break down some of these walls and barriers. The other thing is that we have to remember that everybody likes community, even Republicans like community. And a lot of these people no longer leave their homes. They no longer leave their little cells. And so one of the things that we have to remember is that we have to outgrow the spaces that we currently meet in. So when you go to a meeting or you attend something, just remember to invite people to go with you. We have to recruit the next generation, invite your grandkids, invite your nieces and your nephews, invite other people in, because we have to start outgrowing the rooms that we currently meet in. It's so important that we do that right now.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy. And look, we'll obviously be in touch in the coming days and weeks as this unfolds in Texas. In fact, with Beto O'Rourke through one of our steering committee members for Young Progressive Democrats of America, we're in dialogue with him about bringing him onto this town hall. And Texas is certainly right now the center stage, and just solidarity. And thank you for all the wisdom and all the work you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Alan, can I take a point of privilege and just make a couple of comments? I want to, first of all, I want to thank Nancy for her activism. It's just been incredible to listen to what she's done. But the other thing I wanted to point out is Christy has renewed my faith in a lot of things today. I'm a firm believer in building community. I'm a firm believer that in joy, and I'm a firm believer that the way we win is by building relationships with others. So the formation of community is absolutely paramount. And everything that Christy said today just energized me completely. I wish I could have been at Netroots with her. But it's just it's exactly what I needed here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And that Christy Lara is, I believe, the chair of the Progressive Caucus of the Texas Democratic Party. And again, thank you, Nancy Thompson, who, of course, is with, among other things, MAGA, Mothers Against Greg Abbott.
We call it MAGA the Good. MAGA the Good. The other one's the bad.
That is marvelous. Well, thank you so much. And with that, we will get to the 5 people who are on stack after we go back to Mike Fox, who will give us our PDA updates. And I'll be with you everybody back in about 4 or 5 minutes. Mike Fox, give us our PDA updates. Again, thank you to Mike Olis for setting up that fantastic dialogue about Texas and everything. And again, thank you to Nancy and Christy. Mike.
All right. And then we'll wrap the recording when you come back. Yes?
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll be just back in a second. Okay.
All right. Coolness. And I'm showing solidarity with all of those who don't have a video capability by keeping my camera off. Trust me, gang, you're happy with that. And speaking of joy, this is my favorite thing to do all week. This is our thank you moment. So I want to thank the following people who have donated today. We got phone banker William double dipping, and we got Margaret. Actually, she phone banks as well. She double dips as well. And Edie and Robert and Dr. Sonneborn double dipping as always. And Becky and Neil and Susan, thanks so much for your kind monthly donation. And phone banker Jane, phone banker Erica double dipping. And Daniel and Michael and Susan, thank you so much for your more than kind $100, Susan. Any amounts greatly appreciated, gang, but we're a little bit behind right now. So if anybody can show solidarity with Susan and with Dorothy, who have both done $100 today, that'd be a beautiful thing. And the next person who tosses in $100 or more, I'll personally match. Any amount is greatly appreciated, gang. Even if it's $1, nothing but love. And then Karen, thank you. And Cindy, thank you. And Ellen, thank you for your monthly. And Missouri chapter head Bob and Francesca and phone banker Betsy double dipping, and there's Dorothy and Patricia and phone banker Mary double dipping and phone banker Aaron double dipping and Debbie and Shawnette for your kind Shantae for your kind monthly, and Dr. Sonneborn again, he's quadruple dipping today, and Mary Ellen phone banking and double dipping, and Michael, who starts us off every week. Thanks so much, Michael. And likewise, let me just take a quick look where we're at on our goal from a volunteer standpoint. We're still 7 short on folks standing up. Again, gang, all we're looking for is an hour jumping on the phones, or if Michael, if you've got that link handy, we need folks piling on to the events on Saturday all around this redistricting thing. We've got a special link for that. If you are hosting one of those events, hit us up at info@pdamerica.org, and we'll make sure that we give you a hand making sure that your event is packed. And otherwise, has Alan returned?
Alan has returned.
Hot diggity. Back to you, Alan.
Okay, everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to take stack and we're going to be continuing on in family time. But so everybody stay with us. Just going to be just like before. But right now we're going to wrap this recording And I'll say that this is Alan Minsky. We've been part of the PDA National Town Hall today, hosting along with Mike Olis and Mike Fox and the PDA staff. And I want to thank our guests today, Nancy Thompson, Christy Lara, and Susie Shannon. And come back next week, Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. And we know one of our featured guests is going to be Betty Yee, former controller of the state of California and progressive candidate for California governor, which is a very wide open race right now, as it seems. So that should be exciting. And I think it is one thing, a little bit of a shift. We usually focus on federal national politics, but we'll be looking at obviously with almost nothing progressive possible to pass through Congress and the Trump administration, we'll be looking at what can be done in states. And today we focused on Texas, and next Sunday we'll be focusing, at least while we're with Betty, on the one state in the country with a larger population than Texas, the state of California. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go to family time and back with another PDA Town Hall next week.